If you ever felt like it was impossible to make it in the US nowadays, you're not alone. 47% of Americans believe that the American dream isn't possible anymore. But is that actually true? I took a look at the data to find out if people are actually having a harder time financially, or if all this negative news is just making everyone feel worse than it actually is. Let's first talk about what's on everyone's mind, which is income. Now in 2024, the median household income was $80,610. If we compare this to, let's say, the 1980s, the median household income at that time was $21,065. And at first glance, this looks incredible, right? We're making 4 times more money. But that's only half the story, because while our paychecks, yes, they got bigger, so did everything else. The first being everyone's favorite topic, and by favorite, I mean the thing that makes every millennial and Gen Z cry: home prices. So in the 1980s, the median price of a house cost $47,200, which is 2.2 times the median household income at that time. Meaning if you earned the median income and you saved every single penny, you could technically buy a house after working for 2.2 years. Now, of course, that's unrealistic. No one's going to take 100% of their income, avoid all of their taxes, and just go buy a house outright with cash. But it does give us a great benchmark, because now we can take a look at how many years of median household income it took someone to buy a house in the 1980s and compare that amount of time to how many years it takes today. And from there, we can actually see how bad the cost of living has actually gotten nowadays. In 2024, the median price of a home is about $419,000, which is 5.2 times more than the median household income at the time. Meaning if you saved every single penny you earned, it would take you 5.2 years of saving to buy a house, which is literally 2 times as expensive compared to the 1980s. And that's like if Big Mac suddenly cost $20, which it's getting pretty close. Next, education. All right, so it's no secret that the cost of college is kind of insane now, but I bet you didn't know how bad it's actually gotten. In the 1980s, 1 year of private college tuition cost about $5,013, which is 0.24 times the median household income, or roughly around 3 months of work. In 2024, that costs around $38,421, which is 0.48 times of your income, or roughly 6 months of work, meaning it's twice as expensive as before. The interesting thing is that even though the cost of college is at an all-time high, college degrees themselves are increasingly less valuable now than before for 2 specific reasons. Number 1 is a ton of people have degrees now. All right, there are now 2 times more graduates with bachelor degrees, 3 times more with master degrees, and 5 times more with doctoral degrees compared to the 1980s. And number 2, there are a ton of ways to make money online now that don't require degrees. And many startup tech companies also do not require degrees to apply and work there. So although people increasingly want a degree, despite the increase in cost for them, the value of a degree is going down, which isn't great for anyone. Next is the cost of childcare, and one of the many reasons that I'm on the fence about having kids. All right, so in the 1980s, the childcare cost around $233 per child per year, or 0.01 times your income. About 1% of your median household income, which is basically nothing. In 2024, childcare costs $13,128 per child per year, which is 0.16 times or 16% of your median household income. If you have 2 kids and you earn the median household income, you are working 4 months per year just to pay for childcare, and that's probably why they're not making another Mary Poppins movie, because no one can afford her. Then there are a bunch of other expenses that have outpaced the rate of inflation, like hospital bills, groceries, cars, and a ton more. So while on paper, right, the median household income is 4 times higher, your dollar today buys a lot less than it would before. But asterisk, things getting more expensive is only part 1 of 3 reasons on why it feels impossible to make it in the US now. The second reason is this, all right? So there are basically 2 forms of money in the US. The first form is US dollars. This is what you earn from your paycheck. When things get more expensive, but your paycheck stays the same, you have less and less money left over every single month. The second form of money is credit, like with credit cards. It's basically where you use money that you don't actually have, that banks let you borrow from them for a price, aka interest payments. Nowadays, interest rates are averaging around 21 to 24%, which is one of the highest ever recorded. Yay, I guess. And the average American owes around $6,700 in credit card debt. So if you're carrying around $6,000 of credit card debt month to month, that means you're gonna pay over $100 in interest payments alone every single month. This whole thing hits the younger generation the hardest, and this is the exact time when they should be focusing on building wealth. Instead of having money left over to invest and grow over time, most of the money is going towards paying monthly bills. And the craziest part is, a lot of these bills are for things that you can get for way less money. For example, the average phone plan costs $141 a month with those big phone companies. And thanks to today's sponsor, Telemobile, cutting your phone bill from $141 a month to just $25 a month has never been easier. If you love saving money like me, switching to Telo's plan with unlimited data, unlimited minutes, and free text can save you, on average, $116 every single month, and you get coverage on America's largest network. That's $116 you can use to invest with to build wealth, or even better, buy 77 hot dogs from Costco, which is arguably more important. Or you can get unlimited talk and text and 5 gigs of data for $14 a month, or you can build your own plan and pay for what you actually use, like $9 a month for 2 gigs of data, 500 minutes, and unlimited text. There's no contracts, there's no fees, and there's no strings attached. You get to keep your same phone, the same number, and you can set it all up from your bed. So if you're like me and you love a great deal, I'll leave a link to Telemobile in the description down below. The third reason why it feels impossible to make it in the US is that there's just a lot of economic uncertainty right now. It's like trying to schedule a hangout with your friends when everyone is type B. Take tariffs, for example. I don't know if you're keeping up with it, but there's been a ton of delays where the dates keep getting pushed back. Like in April with the Liberation Day tariffs, it got pushed back. In June, it was planned a 50% tariffs on EU, but then it got pushed back to July. And more recently, there were supposed to be tariffs on China on August 11th, but then it was like, let's push it back to November 10th. The reason this is so challenging is because if you think about it from a business perspective, right? Let's say you're a business. How do you plan for what's about to come, right? Do you raise prices now, or do you wait for later? Do you order extra inventory, or do you hold cash? Are you planning everything for this date, or are you expecting that date to be delayed again? And all this uncertainty leads to employers, they're not hiring as many people, or they are laying people off, because they don't know what their costs are going to be next week or next month. And all this uncertainty ultimately falls down to us, the people, in the form of higher prices. Yale's Budget Lab and JP Morgan estimates that the average US household is paying an extra $1,700 to $2,000 in 2025 because of tariffs. And I know that when companies raise prices, they rarely bring them back down. And what makes economic uncertainty so brutal is this constant wait and see economy. All in all, the point is, it feels like it's impossible to make it in the US now because it genuinely is harder. One thing a lot of money experts don't like to admit, because the message is always pull yourself up with your own bootstraps, but I believe is very important to acknowledge, is that society has been blaming and shaming individuals for way too long. And yet a lot of the economic situations that many people are in right now isn't because of anything they have done or could have done differently. Some of these issues are bigger than one individual. This is a systematic economic issue, which makes it increasingly difficult for the average person, right, the 9-to-5 worker, to achieve what was considered normal financial milestones in previous generations. Like in the 1980s, right, the median age that people purchased their first house was 29 years old. They got married in their early 20s and then retired by 57. But nowadays, the median age that people buy their first house is 38 years old because it's a lot more expensive now. They marry in their early 30s and then they retire by 64. At this rate, Gen Z and Gen A, I am wishing y'all the best of luck. And these issues have compounding consequences, right? Like the average person, if their wages aren't going up and they lose out on time to build wealth because things are so expensive, the economy slows down, which makes it even harder for the next generation. Like, tell me why since 1973, Americans are not only working harder, but they are getting paid less. All right, that's some Black Mirror dystopian nonsense. On the other hand, the top 1% have seen their wages increasing more than 10 times that of the bottom 90%. All right, make it make sense. And there's a bunch more data that shows how bad the wealth gap has gotten. Let me know if you want me to make a whole video on that topic. But to be abundantly clear, okay, just calling it a systematic issue doesn't mean we can just rage quit life and give up. It means we need to find a way around it. All right, so if you're watching right now and you aspire to be wealthier than previous generations, what are some of the steps that we can take to get there? First, a lot of it has to do with increasing the gap between your income and expenses by following a few key frameworks for the two largest expenses that most people have. First, if you rent, the rule of thumb is that your rent should be less than 30% of your income before taxes. The reason being, after you paid your rent, you will still have money left over for other life expenses. Meaning if you make $65K a year, you should roughly aim to spend around $19.5K a year on rent, or $1,625 every month. I live in New York City and I know that is nearly impossible. So if you are living in a very high cost of living city like me, then you're gonna have to go above the 30% rule. which sucks because now that means you have to be even more careful with the other expenses because you have less money now. If you have a mortgage, try to follow the same 30% rule for your mortgage payments, your insurance, as well as your taxes. Next, transportation. All right, so the rule of thumb here is that your monthly car payments should be less than 10% of your gross income. So if you make, again, $65K a year, then you should spend max $6,500 a year or $541 a month on your car payments. I know this is really tough, especially with interest rates nowadays, but look at other large car expenses that you can try to lower. One example is with car insurance. It is one of the biggest car expenses that many people have, and many people are overpaying for terrible car insurance. If you're interested, I'll leave a free tool down below that I use to help me find cheaper car insurance. So if you're able to lower these two big expenses, whatever amount of money you can save, you should first prioritize that and build a 3 to 6 month emergency fund. Once that's covered, you should open and contribute to a Roth IRA, which is a tax advantage account where your money can grow tax-free. If you can contribute around $300 every month here, and assuming an average rate of return of 10%, you're looking at $1.67 million, all of which you can withdraw tax-free. So if you're able to do that and spend within your means with all the other parts of your life that's going on, then you're gonna be in a really good financial spot. The second thing that I think is really helpful that is definitely underrated in the US is to lean into community. American culture or Western culture in general, they love to push this idea of individualism. Figure everything out on yourself, right? Be independent or pull yourself up by your bootstraps, which to be fair has its pros and cons, but I don't think it's helping with people's financial stress. I grew up in a traditional Chinese household and family was very important for us, right? My grandma lived with us, multiple generations under one roof. My cousins lived nearby and we all supported each other. None of us grew up with money, but I always knew in the back of my head that if anything terrible happened, like financially or whatever, right, we were all there to support and help one another. And this tip doesn't have to be with blood family. It can be with close friends too. The key here is shifting from the mentality of I need to figure everything out on my own to we can solve this thing together. It's just that feeling of community and support and that peace of mind that I think a lot of people can benefit from nowadays. And number 3, you need to consume better financial information and content. I am all for democratizing financial knowledge because I genuinely believe that financial literacy is super important. But there is a lot of, toxic money experts out there that will tell you to wake up at 5 a.m., to stop spending money, never spend money, and to save every single penny that you have. And I'm not gonna name drop anyone, but constantly being exposed to toxic and frankly outdated money advice like that can make your financial stress even worse. I'm all for budgeting and saving money, but it shouldn't make you feel deprived. It shouldn't make you feel shamed or guilty. That's not how people learn and change, right? And it's for sure not a sustainable way to build wealth. So what is the right way to build wealth? Well, for me, instead of looking at budgeting as something that limits me, right? I look at it as a way to free me. Knowing my budget is what allows me to say yes to opportunities and to actually live life. Like, yes, I can go to Milwaukee on a random weekend to eat cheese curds. Yes, I can retire early, or yes, I can help my family financially when they need it. So if you're serious about taking control of your money without feeling like you're always punishing yourself, I want you to check out this video over here where I show you exactly how I manage my money that can fit into any crazy busy lifestyle so you can finally start saying, yes, I can.